my precious one? That question, is it possible, has lingered in the quiet chambers of your heart, hasn't it? It feels like a spiritual riddle. To let go seems to demand forgetting, but to forget feels like a betrayal of your own experience, of your pain, of the truth you lived. So you stand at this impossible crossroads, believing you have only two choices: to cling fiercely to the memory, and thus to the pain, or to attempt the spiritual surgery of carving the memory out of your soul entirely. You believe you must either be a prisoner of the past or an amnesiac in the present. Today, I come to tell you there is a third way, a sacred, higher path, a divine paradox that your spirit already knows, but your mind struggles to comprehend. Letting go is not about forgetting. It is about changing the relationship you have with the memory. Think of it this way, my child. You have a precious, but deeply painful, letter. It is written in the ink of a past hurt. For years, you have carried this letter clenched in your fist, pressed against your heart. You have slept with it. You have worked with it. Its words have worn grooves into your palm, and its message has stained your spirit. Every time you unfold it to read, you feel the fresh cut of every syllable. This is what the world calls remembering. But this is not true remembrance. This is active reliving. What I invite you to is something entirely different. I am not asking you to burn the letter. I am not asking you to pretend it was never written, or that its words carried no weight. That would be a lie, and I am the God of truth. No, my beloved. I am asking you to take that same letter, and with immense reverence and courage, to place it in a beautiful, strong box. You acknowledge it is there. You know its contents. You may even, on occasion, open the box and look at it. But you are no longer carrying it clutched in your daily hand. You are no longer allowing its sharp edges to cut you anew each day. You have changed its location and its authority in your life. The event is archived. It is not erased, but it is no longer the active document governing your present emotions. This is the sacred paradox. You can remember without residing. You can acknowledge without allowing it to anchor you. Your mind holds the fact. Your spirit is freed from the emotional tyranny of that fact. The world's idea of letting go is often a form of spiritual bypassing, a frantic, white-knuckled attempt to delete, to suppress, to think positive, until the shame of remembering makes you feel spiritually inferior. That is not my way. My way is one of integration, not deletion, of healing, not hacking. When I, in my eternal nature, say, I remember your sins no more, do you think I develop amnesia? That I, the all-knowing, have a divine lapse in memory? Of course not. It means I choose not to hold it against you. I choose not to let that memory govern my posture, my attitude, my actions toward you. The record exists, but it is covered by the blood of covenant. Its power to condemn, to separate, to inflict pain, is utterly neutralized. This is the perfect model for your own heart. You are not asked to develop supernatural amnesia. You are empowered to develop supernatural neutrality, where the memory loses its power to trigger shame, to reignite anger, to propel you into fear. So release the false burden, my child. The burden that says you are not spiritually advanced enough if you still recall the hurt. The burden that conflates memory with bondage. Letting go is not an act of your mind's forgetfulness. It is an act of your spirit's sovereignty. It is you declaring to that past event, you happened. You shaped me. But you do not own me. I will take from you the wisdom, the strength, the compassion you inadvertently taught me. And I will leave the poison of your pain right here, at the foot of the cross. I remember where I have been, but I am no longer living there. This is not only possible, it is the very heart of redemptive love. It is how I love you, and it is how you can learn to love your own story, not by editing out the painful chapters, but by seeing how even those chapters were woven, by my grace, into a narrative of strength, depth, and profound empathy. The paradox is the portal. Step through. My beloved, now we must turn and face the formidable iron bars of the prison you have inhabited, perhaps believing it to be a fortress. This is the prison of perfect recall. It is not a prison built by the one who hurt you, though they may have provided the bricks. It is a prison whose final lock was sealed by your own hand, in the name of loyalty, in the name of justice, in the name of never being fooled again. You believed that to remember every detail, every word, every inflection of pain was to be wise, to be safe, to honor the truth of what happened. But instead of wisdom, it bred bitterness. Instead of safety, it created a siege mentality. Instead of honoring truth, it forged an idol of the wound. This prison operates on a cruel, hidden logic. The more perfectly I remember the pain, the less likely I am to ever experience it again. It is the mind's desperate attempt at control over chaos. If you can keep the memory sharp, vivid, and emotionally charged, you believe you maintain a defensive perimeter. You will see the warning signs earlier. You will never be caught off guard. You will never be that vulnerable again. But my child, what has this perfect recall truly achieved? It has not kept pain out. It has locked pain in. You have become the chief warden and the sole inmate of a jail where the punishment is the perpetual rescreening of the crime. The event lasted a day, a month, a year, but your perfect recall has sentenced you to relive it for a lifetime. Examine the architecture of this prison. The walls are made of, "I will never forget what you did." This feels like righteous resolve. It feels like holding someone accountable. But in the unseen realm, you are the one chained to that wall. The person who wronged you likely walks free, unaware of the museum of hurt you curate daily in their honor. Your perfect recall does not bind them. It binds you. It gives them a permanent, controlling share in your inner life. You think you are keeping them in your courtroom, on trial. In reality, you have given them a master key to your peace, and they can disrupt it anytime the memory surfaces. The bars are made of, "If I stop hurting, it means it didn't matter." This is one of the enemy's most deceitful and effective lies. It equates the significance of an event with the permanence of its emotional sting. It says your love was only real if the grief is endless. Your betrayal was only truly unjust if the anger is eternal. This bar twists your virtue into your shackle. Your beautiful, loyal heart that values depth and meaning is tricked into believing that to heal is to trivialize. So you cling to the ache as a sacred relic, a proof of love, a testament to the depth of the wrong. You are afraid that if the emotional charge fades, the event itself will fade into insignificance. But I tell you, the event's significance is fixed in history. Your pain is not its monument. Your transformed life is. The lock on the door is the pride of the scarred survivor. This pain made me who I am. This weight is my strength. You wear the memory as a badge of endurance, and to consider setting it down feels like a betrayal of the survivor you had to become. You fear that without this defining wound, you might lose your identity, your depth, your story. This lock is perhaps the most difficult to open, for it is crafted from a twisted truth. Yes, you endured. Yes, you survived. But the survival is not your identity. It is a season. The scar is not your source of strength. It is evidence of a healed wound. Your strength comes from my spirit within you, not from the memory of the injury. To finally walk out of the prison does not dishonor the survivor. It is the survivor's ultimate victory. The prison itself was the final boss to defeat. The cruelest aspect of this prison is that it distorts your perception of the present and future. Because your mind is perfectly tuned to recall past pain, it begins to see potential threats everywhere. A neutral comment is filtered through the memory of old criticism and becomes an attack. A new opportunity is viewed through the lens of past failure and becomes a risk not worth taking. A kind person is scrutinized through the ghost of past betrayal and is held at arm's length. Your perfect recall of past pain creates a permanent filter of suspicion, coloring every new relationship, every new venture, with the hues of old wounds. You are not living in the present. You are living in a past that is projected onto the present. This is the life sentence, to never truly experience anything new, because everything is seen as a mere repetition of the old. I see you in this prison, my precious one. I see the meticulous care with which you maintain the walls, thinking you are protecting yourself. I hear the internal dialogue of recollection, the rehearsals of old conversations, the if only and the what if. And my heart breaks, not with disappointment, but with a fierce longing for your freedom. For this is not my design for you. You were created for a spacious place, for a mind that remembers my faithfulness more vividly than human failure, for a heart that can recall pain without being re-traumatized by it. This prison of perfect recall is a choice, however unconsciously made, and the key to its lock has been in your hand all along. It is the key of sacred release. It is the decision to change the purpose of your memory, from a tool of self-protection to a testament of my redemption, to remember not to nurse the wound, but to marvel at the healing, not to cage yourself, but to celebrate your deliverance. The sentence is self-imposed, which means it can be self-commuted. You are the warden. You hold the keys. It is time to turn the lock, swing open the heavy door, and step out into the startling, bright, and spacious field of grace. The memory may stand like an abandoned building in the distance, but you are no longer dwelling within its walls. Your perfect recall will be redeemed into a perfect testimony, not of what was done to you, but of what I have done in you, my beloved child. To walk out of the prison, you must understand what you are carrying. You believe you are carrying a memory, a single, solid, untouchable thing. But I tell you, a painful memory is not a monolith. It is a composite, a fusion. It has anatomy, layers, distinct parts that have been welded together by trauma and time. And the power to let go without forgetting lies in your sacred ability to perform a spiritual dissection, to separate what is unchangeable from what is transformable, to hold the fact with reverence, and to release the emotional charge with faith. Let us look closely at this memory that has weighed so heavily upon you. See it not as a ghost, but as a creation. It is built of two primary substances. First, there is the factual core. This is the irreducible historical data. It is the what, the when, the who. On this date, this person said these words. In that season, this event occurred. This promise was made and then broken. This factual core is neutral in itself. It is simply a record, like an entry in a ledger. It carries no inherent emotional power. It is a stone. You cannot change this stone. It sits in the riverbed of your history. To try to deny this stone, to pretend it is not there, is to live in a lie. This is the part you do not and cannot forget, and I do not ask you to. I am the God of truth. We must always acknowledge the stone. But secondly, fused to that factual stone like a thick, toxic resin is the emotional charge. This is everything else. This is the meaning you assign to the event in the moment of shock, the searing heat of betrayal, the icy chill of abandonment, the crushing weight of shame, the acid bitterness of injustice. This is the soundtrack of your inner screams, the film of your tears, the physical sensation of your heart sinking. This is the story you told yourself about the fact. This means I am unlovable. This means I cannot trust anyone. This means the world is unsafe. This means God has forgotten me. My precious one, here is the crucial revelation. The emotional charge is not the fact. It is your soul's reaction to the fact. And while the fact is fixed in history, the reaction is malleable in the present. The pain was real. The tears were valid. But the meaning you attached, the global, permanent, identity-shaping conclusion you drew in your wounded state, that is what has kept the wound open. You have mistaken the reaction for the event itself. You believe that, to remember the stone, you must also re-experience the full, drowning force of the toxic resin that engulfed it. This is the fusion that creates the prison. Think of it like a terrible song from a painful season of your life. The song itself, the melody, the lyrics, is the factual core. The intense grief, loneliness, or heartbreak you felt every time you heard it, that is the emotional charge. For years you have believed that to hear the song is to feel the pain. They are one and the same. So you avoid the song at all costs, or you play it on a loop to punish yourself, believing the pain is inherent to the notes. But what if you could learn to hear the song, to acknowledge its existence, to even remember the season it represents, without being hijacked by the old tsunami of feeling? What if you could listen and say, yes, that song was playing during a very hard time. I remember it. But now, I hear it as a testament to how far I've come. The song is the same. Your relationship to the song has changed, because you have separated the music from the old emotional weather system. This, my child, is the sacred work I invite you into. It is not denial. It is the highest form of spiritual integration. You are not burning the ledger that holds the factual stone. You are lovingly, carefully with my spirit as your surgeon, dissolving the toxic resin of old meaning that has glued your present peace to your past pain. How is this done? It begins with a simple, powerful act of naming. In my presence, you take the memory and you speak its two parts aloud. You say, the fact is, this happened. This was said. This was done. You state it plainly, without drama, as a historian would. Then you say, the charge I have been carrying is the belief that I am broken because of it, the feeling of worthlessness, the anger that consumes me. You pull them apart. You see them as two distinct things. In that moment of naming, you initiate the separation. Then you make the divine exchange. You bring the emotional charge, the shame, the bitterness, the fear, and you lay it at the foot of my cross. You say, I cannot carry this meaning anymore. It is too heavy. It is a conclusion I drew in the dark, and I choose to surrender it to your light. You give me the poison, and in return I give you a new meaning, a redeemed narrative to attach to that old factual stone. I say, the fact is, you were hurt. But the new truth is you became compassionate. The fact is you were betrayed. But the new truth is you learned the priceless value of loyalty. The fact is you were weakened. But the new truth is my strength is now perfected in that very place. You are not forgetting the stone. You are planting a flower in the crack that once formed in it. The memory's anatomy is transformed. The fact remains, a sober testament to your journey. But the charge is gone, replaced by my grace note. You remember where you were, but you are no longer there. You recall the storm, but you are no longer wet and shivering. You have separated the weather from the landscape. This is the miracle I perform. This is how I redeem all things. I do not erase your history. I rewrite its meaning. I do not remove the scar. I infuse it with a story of healing that brings life to others. So pick up the memory, my beloved. Look at it with new eyes. See the fact. See the old fused charge. And hand me the charge. Keep the fact as a chapter in your story, a chapter that no longer defines the whole book, but one that makes the victory of the final pages all the more glorious. My precious one, we have come now to the great stumbling block, the rugged cliff face where so many journeys of release come to a halt, the act of forgiveness. It is here that the enemy has sown his most successful weeds of confusion, twisting a divine instrument of liberation into a perceived sentence of injustice. You hear the call to forgive, and everything in you recoils. If I forgive, your heart cries out, I am saying what they did was okay. I am giving them a free pass. I am negating my own pain and declaring their evil null and void. This understanding has kept you bound more tightly than the original wound. So let us, with the sharp sword of truth, cut through this deadly confusion. Forgiveness is not amnesty. It is not a declaration about their actions. It is a change of custody for your soul. You must first understand the courtroom you have built inside your heart. In the aftermath of the wound, you rightly established an internal tribunal. You, as the wounded, sat as the plaintiff. The one who hurt you stood as the defendant. The evidence, the facts, the pain was presented, and a verdict was reached. Guilty. This was a just verdict. The wrongdoing was real. But here is where the process was hijacked. After the verdict was rendered, you did not leave the courtroom. You remained. You took on 3 additional unbearable roles: the jailer, the probation officer, and the person compulsively rereading the court transcripts every single day. You are exhausted because you are running a one-person penal system for an inmate who may not even know they are incarcerated in your spirit. Forgiveness, my child, is you finally walking out of that self-made courtroom and locking the door behind you. Forgiveness is you transferring the case to a higher court. It is you standing up from the judge's bench, laying down the gavel, and saying, I am not qualified to execute the full sentence. The scales of eternal justice are too complex for my human hands. I hereby remand this case, this defendant, and this debt to the divine jurisdiction of the righteous judge. You are not declaring the defendant innocent. You are acknowledging that your role as their perpetual punisher is over. You are freeing yourself from the full-time job of managing their guilt. You are handing me the file and saying, you see all, you know all, you judge righteously. I trust you with the sentence. This is an act of profound faith, not foolishness. Think of it like a debt. Someone owes you a monumental sum, an apology, a restored childhood, a broken trust. They cannot pay it. They may not even acknowledge it. You hold the promissory note, and you have been trying to collect this unpayable debt from them every single day, to your own utter depletion. Forgiveness is you taking that note, that I owe you, and canceling it. Not because the debt wasn't real, but because you realize you are not the collection agency. You are destroying the document in your own hands, not because the obligation wasn't valid, but because you are choosing to stop letting it define your relationship to the present moment. You are saying, I will no longer wait for a payment that will never come to start living my life. I absorb the loss so that I can stop counting it. This is where the world's concept and heaven's concept violently part ways. The world says forgiveness is a transaction between 2 people. The offender repents, the wounded forgives. And where there is no repentance, forgiveness is deemed impossible or foolish. But my kingdom operates on a different principle. My forgiveness toward you was unilateral. I did not wait for your perfection to offer my grace. I absorbed the cost myself on the cross to make a way for your freedom while you were still in your error. I am not asking you to do something I have not already done for you. I am asking you to extend the same unilateral, freeing principle into your own heart. You forgive not because they have repented, but because you need to be free. You cancel the debt not because it doesn't exist, but because you cannot afford to spend your one precious life as a debt collector for a bankrupt soul. Does this mean there are no consequences? That relationships are always restored? Absolutely not. Amnesty restores all rights and privileges, Forgiveness simply releases the poison from your own bloodstream. It may still be wise to keep a safe distance from the one who hurt you. It may still be necessary to have boundaries that protect your heart. Forgiveness does not mean you must hand them a new knife. It means you have finally taken the old knife they left in you out of your own body. You are now free to move, to heal, to build a life that is not centered around that wound. My beloved, look at your hands. Are they clenched tight, white-knuckled, around the gavel of judgment? Are they sore from clutching a debt note that is crumpled and tear-stained? I am here to gently, powerfully pry your fingers open. I am not asking you to pretend the wound didn't happen. I'm asking you to let me heal it. And the first step of healing is to remove the foreign object, the bitterness, the right to retaliate, the prison of their perpetual condemnation. From the wound site, when you choose to forgive, you are not letting them off your hook. You are letting yourself off their hook. You are cutting the invisible cord that ties your inner peace to their past behavior. You are declaring your spirit a sovereign nation, no longer occupied by the enemy of resentment. You are saying, what you did was wrong. It hurt me deeply. But from this moment forward, your power to continue hurting me, to live rent-free in my mind, to color my present with your past, that power ends now. I transfer you and this pain to God. My case is closed. My soul is moving on. This is forgiveness. It is the most selfishly freeing, spiritually powerful, and defiantly loving act you will ever perform. It is you walking out of the cold, dark courtroom of your own making and into the wide, sunlit meadows of my grace. You leave the verdict with me. You take your freedom with you, and you begin, at last, to live. My beloved, we have walked through the hard truths of release, the transfer of the case, the dissolution of the toxic charge. Now we enter the chamber of miracles. This is the place where I perform my most breathtaking work. Not just the healing of a wound, but the transfiguration of its very essence. This is the alchemy of reframing. It is the process by which the memory that was your tormentor is invited, through grace, to become your teacher. The scar that spoke of weakness begins to whisper of strength. The broken place becomes the source of your deepest empathy. This is not positive thinking. This is divine repurposing. You see, the enemy's goal is to frame your pain as waste, to have you believe that season, that relationship, that betrayal was nothing but a cosmic error, a barren period of loss that yielded nothing of value. He wants the memory to be a sealed tomb, from which only ghosts of regret emerge. But I am the God of resurrection. I specialize in bringing life from graves. My nature is to redeem, which means to buy back, to recover ownership of what was lost, and to restore it to a purpose greater than its original design. The reframing I offer is not a cosmetic lie. It is a revelation of a hidden, redemptive thread that was being woven even in the darkest hour. A thread you could not see until you stepped into the light. Reframing begins with a courageous question. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" A question that often leads only to the circular maze of injustice, you begin to ask, "What can this now produce in me and through me?" This shifts your gaze from the external cause, which you cannot change, to the internal work, which you can cooperate with. It moves you from the role of passive victim to active participant in your own redemption story. The memory is no longer just a crime scene. It is a mining site, and you are looking for the hidden ore of strength, wisdom, and compassion that was formed under immense pressure. Consider the story of Joseph. His brother's betrayal, his slavery, his imprisonment. These were horrific facts. For years they framed his life as one of abandonment and injustice. But when he stood before his brothers at the pinnacle of his purpose, he did not say, "Let's pretend you didn't do it." He named the fact, "You intended to harm me." But then he revealed the divine reframe. But God intended it for good. The same set of facts. two different frames. One frame produced bitterness and division. The other produced salvation for nations and reconciliation for a family. The facts didn't change. The meaning attached to them was utterly transformed by the lens of redemptive purpose. This is the alchemy I want to work in you. You take the memory, say, of a profound loneliness, and you ask me to reframe it. I show you how that very loneliness taught you to hear my voice more clearly than any crowd ever could, making you a person of profound spiritual depth. You take the memory of betrayal, and I show you how it fine-tuned your discernment, teaching you the priceless value of true loyalty and making you a fiercely faithful friend to others. You take the memory of failure, and I show you how it dismantled your arrogance and built in its place a foundation of humility upon which true success can now be built. The pain becomes the syllabus for a course in wisdom. You could have learned no other way. This work requires your active partnership. It is a discipline of re-narration. You must begin to tell the story differently, to yourself, not by omitting the hard facts, but by including the divine interventions, the lessons learned, the strengths forged. That was the season I was deeply wounded, and it was also the season I discovered my own resilience. That person broke my trust, and through that, I learned to anchor my trust in God, who never fails. The word "and" is a powerful tool of reframing. It allows you to hold the truth of the pain and the truth of the gain, without canceling either. Do not mistake this for a quick mental trick. This is a deep work of the spirit, often done with tears and over time. You are not slapping a happy sticker on a broken vase. You are watching me, the master potter, take every shattered piece and create a new, stunning mosaic, with a beauty and complexity the original vase never possessed. The scars become part of the art. The breaks become the source of the new pattern's light. When this alchemy takes hold, something miraculous happens to the memory itself. It loses its sting. It loses its power to trigger you. Why? Because it is no longer a standalone monument to your pain. It has been integrated into the larger, victorious narrative of your life. It is now a chapter, a difficult, pivotal chapter, in a book that is ultimately about overcoming, healing, and purpose. You can revisit that chapter without drowning in it, because you know how the story turns out. You know that chapter was necessary to build the character who could live the glorious chapters that follow. My precious one, this is how you let go without forgetting. You don't erase the memory. You redeem its narrative. You change the frame around the picture. From a frame of my great catastrophe, it becomes the crucible where my strength was forged, or the wilderness where I found my guide. The picture is the same, but the frame, the meaning, the context, the title, changes everything about how you see it and how it affects you. So bring me your frames. The heavy, gilded frames of bitterness, the broken frames of shame, the dark frames of regret. Hand them to me, and watch as I replace them with frames of grace, of wisdom, of sacred purpose. The memory will hang in the gallery of your life, not as a warning of danger, but as a testament to my restorative power. It will no longer be a wound, it will be a witness, and that witness will speak freedom to your own heart and to every other heart that sees its transformed beauty. My beloved child, we are now walking on holy ground, the ground where memory meets the present, not as an enemy, but as a respected elder. We have reframed the narrative. Now we must establish the new, daily protocol for how you interact with this past. This is the delicate, crucial practice of honoring the scar while never ever reopening the wound. It is the difference between having a history and being hostage to it, between learning from the past and living in it. A scar, my precious one, is a sign of healed trauma. It is evidence that a great injury occurred, that the flesh was torn, that there was blood and pain and a long season of mending. But a scar is also proof of life, proof that the body's miraculous intelligence fought infection, wove new tissue, and sealed the breach. A scar is not an active wound. It is closed. It is sealed. It is strong, often stronger than the original skin around it. To honor the scar is to acknowledge its story, to touch it with reverence for the survival it represents, and to protect the area from fresh injury. But you do not take a knife and slice it open again to prove the original cut was real. That would be madness, a form of self-mutilation. This is precisely what you have been doing with your emotional and spiritual scars. You have been mistaking the memory of the wound for the wound itself. And in moments of fear or loneliness, or when you feel you need to prove your pain to yourself or others, you take the knife of recollection and you press it into the scar tissue. You reopen it. You probe the old injury, reactivate the nerve endings, and make it bleed fresh grief, fresh anger, fresh pain. You believe this makes the memory real or honest, but in truth, it only makes you a prisoner of a cyclical, self-inflicted trauma. You are keeping the wound in a state of perpetual, almost healed. To let go without forgetting means you learn a new way of touching your own history. You learn to touch with a feather of reverence, not a pickaxe of regret. When the memory surfaces, and it will, for the mind is designed to recall, you do not flinch from it or frantically push it down. That is fear. Nor do you dive into it, unpack its suitcase, and move back in. That is bondage. Instead, you acknowledge its presence with a calm, sovereign spirit. You say, "Ah, yes, I remember that season. That was very hard. I honor the person I was who endured that. I honor the God who brought me through it." And then, you let the memory pass by like a ship on the horizon. You see it. You know what it is, but you do not board it. You do not let it dock at the port of your present peace. This practice requires you to become the wise guardian of your own inner gate. You must learn to discern the difference between healthy remembrance and unhealthy rumination. Remembrance is brief, factual, and leads to gratitude or wisdom. It is a glance backward that fuels forward motion. I remember when I felt abandoned, and that memory reminds me to cherish the faithful people in my life now. It touches the scar with thanks for the healing. Rumination is cyclical, emotional, and leads to despair or anger. It is a fixation backward that paralyzes the present. I remember when I felt abandoned, and it makes me believe everyone will leave me. And I feel that old pain all over again, as if it's happening now. It reopens the scar and worsens the infection. Your new protocol is this. When a memory comes, you immediately ask the Holy Spirit, "Is this remembrance or rumination?" If it is rumination, if you feel the old emotional charge trying to hijack you, you immediately speak to it with authority. You say, "No. That wound is healed. That debt is canceled. That chapter is closed. I honor the scar, but I will not reopen the wound. My present peace is not available for disturbance." You redirect your focus to my presence, to a truth from my word, to a blessing in your current life. Honoring the scar also means you allow it to make you wiser, not more wounded. A physical scar on your knee from a childhood fall teaches you to be more careful on that gravel path. It doesn't stop you from walking. It makes you walk with more awareness. In the same way, your spiritual scars become sources of holy wisdom. The scar from betrayal teaches you the value of trustworthiness, but it doesn't stop you from trusting. It teaches you to trust with discernment. The scar from failure teaches you the importance of humility and process, but it doesn't stop you from trying again. It teaches you to try with wiser preparation. You are not defined by the scar, but you are informed by it. This is the ultimate sign of healing. When your past pain becomes a compass for compassion, not a trigger for fear. You meet someone who is in the fresh, bleeding stage of a wound you once had, and you do not recoil in terror of your own memory. Instead, your scar tingles with empathy. You can sit with them in their pain because you are not afraid of being sucked back into yours. You can say, I have a scar from a place like that. I know it hurts, and I know healing is possible. Your history becomes a ministry, not a misery. The scar is no longer a shameful mark to hide. It is a humble credential of survival that qualifies you to offer real hope. My beloved, you are not a collection of open wounds. You are a tapestry of beautiful, strong scars, each one a testimony to a battle survived, a healing received, a lesson learned. It is time to stop being ashamed of them. It is time to stop picking at them. It is time to let them be what they are, sealed monuments to my faithfulness. Touch them with gratitude, not grief. Let them remind you of my power, not your pain. Your history is yours. It cannot be rewritten, but your relationship to it can be entirely transformed. You are no longer a patient in the emergency room of that old injury. You are a pilgrim who bears the marks of the journey, walking confidently toward the horizon. Your scar's a map of where you've been and a badge of who you've become. Not a victim, but a victor, healed, whole, and holy. My precious one, we have arrived at the destination of our sacred journey. This is not merely the end of a teaching, but the beginning of your new existence. We have traced the path from the weight of memory, through the courage of release, the alchemy of reframing, to the reverence for the scar. Now, we step fully into the promised land, living in the unburdened present. This is the practical daily reality of a soul that has let go without forgetting. It is the vibrant, spacious, and peaceful life where your past is a reference library, not a prison cell, where memory informs you without imprisoning you. To live here is to understand a fundamental shift in spiritual physics. Previously, your past was a weight on your present, pressing down, distorting your perception, sapping your energy for today's joys and tasks. Now, your past becomes a foundation under your present. It is solid, settled, and far below you. It gives you stability and depth, but it does not dictate the architecture of the house you are now free to build upon it. You live from your healing, not for your healing. The first hallmark of this life is engaged presence. Your mind, which was once partitioned, a fraction attending to the moment while the majority was secretly deployed to manage the old pain, is now fully available. You listen to a friend and hear their heart, not just the echoes of an old conversation. You taste your food. You feel the sun on your skin. You engage in your work with flow, not fragmentation. This is because the mental and emotional bandwidth, once consumed by the full-time job of carrying the weight, is now liberated. You are present because you are no longer paying rent to a ghost from yesterday. Your attention is a sacred resource, and you have reclaimed it for the now. In this unburdened present, your decision-making is cleansed of old fear. Before, every new opportunity, every potential relationship, was filtered through the trauma filter of what happened last time. The past became a prophetic lens that only saw repetition, not possibility. Now you consult the past as a wise advisor, not a fearful tyrant. You can say, that experience taught me the importance of clear boundaries, so I will move forward, setting healthy boundaries from a place of strength, not from a place of expecting betrayal. The memory provides data, not doom. It offers wisdom, not warnings of certain failure. You are free to choose based on faith, hope, and my guidance, not on the defensive reflexes of a wounded heart. Here, in the spaciousness of the now, your emotional landscape is stable and responsive, not reactive. You still feel deeply, joy, sorrow, anger, hope. But these emotions are responses to the actual stimuli of your present life, not involuntary eruptions from old, buried landmines. A present-day disappointment feels like a present-day disappointment. It is not amplified into a cataclysm because it tapped into a reservoir of ancient grief. You grieve what is lost now, not everything that was ever lost. You celebrate a present joy without the shadow of "this won't last" whispering from a past where joy was taken. Your emotions belong to you again. They are your faithful messengers for the present, not the haunting echoes of the past. This leads to the most beautiful fruit: authentic relationship. You no longer relate to people as symbols of past hurts or as potential redeemers of old wounds. You see them as they are, in the present. You can offer love that is clean, free from the hidden agenda of getting them to fix what someone else broke. You can receive love without the constant suspicious audit for hidden motives. Your connections are based on the truth of who you are now and who they are now, not on the ghosts of who you and others were. You build, you bond, you forgive minor offenses quickly, because your relational ledger is not backlogged with decades of unresolved, projected pain. Living unburdened is also characterized by effortless gratitude. When the crushing weight of what was is lifted, your eyes naturally adjust to the light of what is. You notice blessings that were always there, but were obscured by the shadow of your burden. The simple gifts: a peaceful morning, a faithful friend, a moment of beauty, sparkle with a new intensity. Your prayers shift from desperate petitions for relief from the past to joyful thanks for the peace of the present. Gratitude becomes your native language, not a forced discipline. Finally, and most importantly, this unburdened present is where your divine purpose comes into sharp focus. The energy once devoted to managing your interior pain is now available for my kingdom work. Your unique purpose, the reason you were shaped, scarred, and healed, begins to unfold with clarity. Your scars become the very map for your ministry. The memory of your loneliness equips you to find the isolated. The memory of your shame empowers you to lift the heads of the ashamed. The memory of your brokenness becomes the bridge you build for others to cross over into wholeness. You are not hiding your history. You are deploying its redeemed narrative as a weapon of hope in the battles of others. Your past, once a personal prison, becomes a public testimony. So how, my beloved, do you practically dwell here? You practice the pause. In any moment of stress or decision, you pause and ask, am I reacting to this or to that? Am I feeling a present emotion or a past trigger? You speak your new truth. You declare, my past is under my feet, not on my back. I am free to respond to this moment with the wisdom of my journey and the peace of my healing. You return to the scar with honor, not fear. When a memory whispers, you thank it for its lesson and reaffirm that its emotional power over you is null and void. This is your life now. You are not a survivor clinging to the wreckage. You are an architect, building with the redeemed materials of your past, a magnificent dwelling place of peace in the present. The memory is a room in your mansion, a room you can visit, a room that tells part of your story, but not the room you live in. You live in the sunlit rooms of now, of grace, of possibility. The weight is gone. The scar is honored. The story is redeemed. You are here. You are free. You are home. Now, walk forward into this unburdened day and into every day that follows, with the light step of one who remembers the journey, but lives in the arrival. This is my will for you. This is your promised land. Possess it.